welcome to episode 22 of the Catherine Crochets podcast. Hi everyone, thank you for joining me today. It's great to have you here. Welcome to my podcast. My name's Catherine. I'm a crochet designer from South London in the UK, and this is my podcast where I chat about recent crochet projects that I've been working on and also a little bit of knitting, which I've been getting into recently as well. How are you all? I hope you're all doing well. We've had a run of colds here recently, especially my daughters. They've had them quite heavy colds and it resulted in a bit of time off school for them, which always disrupts things a little bit. But I'm pleased to say they're now both back at school and things feel like they're getting back into a routine again. The weather has improved quite a lot. It's a really nice, bright, sunny day today. And this week I've managed to get out on a couple of walks in the morning after dropping my daughter at school, which has been a really nice way to start the day. I used to do it quite often, but it feels like the last few months I've just lost the habit of doing it. And it's really nice. I think it's partly winter, partly also my older daughter having started year 7 and a slight change in our morning routines, and we just got out of the habit really, but it feels really good to have got back into it. We've got a lovely big park at the end of our road with lots of sort of wildish meadow grassy areas at the back, which are really nice for having a walk around. They're quite relatively hilly, so you get some quite good views as well, so that's been really nice to get back into that. A really good way to start the day, so I'm hoping I manage to continue with those. Apart from that, I've been working hard on some couple of crochet and knitting projects. I haven't finished anything. It's been 3 weeks since the last podcast and I don't have any finished items. I had finished a whole bunch of smaller projects over Christmas to sort of clear the way for starting these 2 bigger projects that I wanted to work on. And so I've been trying to focus on those really, because they are projects that are going to take quite a bit of time, and I wanted to really get stuck into them. So I've got 3 works in progress. Having said all that, I have started just yesterday evening a new smaller whip as well, because I just wanted something small that I could, having realised that it was going to be a while till I finished the next project, so I wanted a smaller project to get on with as well and have a quicker finish along the way. So I'm going to chat a bit about those whips, works in progress, a little bit about some upcoming plans, and then also I've shared in the past what I like to listen to audiobooks while I'm crocheting in the evening. And I've chatted about them a bit in the past, and I know people have enjoyed that. So there's a couple of audiobooks that I've been listening to recently that I thought I'd tell you about at the end of the podcast in case you're interested. So that's what's coming up today. So let's get started with the whips. So the main whip I've been working on, which is taking up most of my time, is the blanket. And I had started this and showed it to you last time. And I think I'd made 4 or 5 hexagons then, maybe a few more. I have made a lot more now. I'm going to move back a little bit so I can fit the whole thing in and show you what I've done. It's a bit hard to show because it's sort of, I'm doing it join as you go. And at the moment, it's just a bit of an odd shape really, with all sorts of bits sticking out. Then it gets thinner and thinner as you go this way because I'm sort of working it in diagonals. So this is going to be how wide it is. No, it's not, sorry. This is going to be how wide it is. So I'm going to fill in, I'm going to have straight edges at either end. So I'm going to fill in these gaps here with half hexagons at the end. And that is a bit hard to show really, but that's how wide it's going to be. So it's not, I'm sort of holding my arms like that It's not quite as full width of my arms, but because of it being hexagons, it was either going to be that wide, which I thought was a bit narrow, or it was I needed to add on like an extra bit like that. So this has made it a really, when it's finished, it's going to obviously take longer making it this size, but it's going to be a really nice size blanket, I think. So that's going to be the end, the width of it, and it'll have a straight end filled in with half hexagons, and then down each side it'll just be these sort of gentle, I'm not going to fill in these gaps because they'd be quite shallow triangles. So I've done one or two other blankets made of hexagons, like my Superstars blanket, and I quite like keeping this zigzag edge down the long sides and then having a straight edge once I filled it in along the short edges. So yeah, so this is coming on really well. I'm really pleased with how it's looking, and it's really nice now. You can see a bit more of the overall pattern of how it's going to look now. Like there's a whole hexagon surrounded by other hexagons. I haven't named it yet. I've still got plenty of time to come up with a name for it, but if you've got any cunning suggestions, let me know. And yeah, I chatted a bit about it last time, but if you missed it, I'm making it with Shapey's Scrumptious yarn, which is a relatively new acrylic yarn. I think they released it last year. It is, as it says on the label, made with recycled plastic bottles, and it is 50% recycled polyester, so I think that's the bit from the bottles, and 50% acrylic, and it is really, it's soft and smooth and just sort of what you'd want from a acrylic DK yarn, really. Just as nice, I think, as their Colour Crafter, which is their like just 100% acrylic DK yarn. What is quite nice, I think I mentioned last time as well, is some of the colours have got a completely solid, and some of them have got like a little fleck or hint of other colours in it. So this one has got a little hint of pinky purples in it in places, if you can see that. So yeah, so this is coming on. It's not even halfway yet, but I'm really pleased with it, and yeah, I'm going to keep going on with this. I started off being quite good and sewing in my ends at the end of each hexagon. This is the back, but as you can see recently I've sort of abandoned that, so I might have a little catch-up session and sew in some of these ends, partly because it just gets a bit ridiculous having so many dangly bits everywhere, and partly because otherwise I'll just have hundreds at the end of each when I finish the blanket. So there's 5 different colours in a hexagon, so you get 10 ends at the end of each hexagon. Because it's join as you go, you don't get any ends from joining, which is nice. But yeah, I should really catch up on my ends a bit, so I might have a end sewing in session soon to catch up. Each hexagon takes me just over an hour to make and join. The joining you do as you make the final round. So, and I tend to crochet mainly, well, almost entirely in the evenings, and I probably get about an hour, well, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. If I'm on a good night, 2 hours, probably more like an hour to an hour and a half crochet time of an evening. So I'm getting sort of one done a day. And because it's all join as you go, what I'm doing is I'm trying to make sure that I start and finish, obviously not the ends, but apart from the end, start and finish a whole hexagon each time I do it. And then if I have got a bit of time left after having done that of an evening, then I work on a different project. So yeah, that's the blanket. It needs a lot more hexagons. It's going to be at least another month or so, I think, of crocheting before it's finished and written up. Yeah, so watch this space. If you're interested in getting the pattern when it's released, do sign up to my email list. I'll pop a link in the show notes. and then you'll get an email notification when it's released, and also a discount code. I always give the biggest discount code for the people on my email list. So if that's something you're interested in, do sign up, and then you won't miss it when it is released. So it's start of February now. So hopefully maybe it'll be released by the end of March. That would be really nice to get it out in March, but we'll see. It might be early April, but hopefully it will be in the spring sometime. So that's my first whip that I've been working on. The next whip is a new whip, which I did mention last time, but I hadn't started making it, and now I have. And this is a knitting whip. So this has been quite good to sort of just pick up when I've got a bit of time left at the end on an evening after having made a hexagon, and then I can just, this is a project where you can stop and start wherever you want really. And this is, and I'm gonna hold it up without losing all the stitches off my needles. So this is the no frills sweater that I'm making. So this is where I've got to so far. I'm still on the raglan increases, but let's see if I can get it a bit more central. That's at the front, it's not quite centered on the shoulders. Am I moving it the wrong way? Might be. Anyway, this is how far I've got. I've still got quite a few more increases to do before I can split for the sleeves, but I'm really pleased with how it's working up. I'm using Drops Lima, which is, I've not used before. It's a DK yarn. It is a mixture of wool and alpaca. It's 65% wool and 35% alpaca. It's really, really soft and smooth. I don't think this is going to feel itchy at all. It is so smooth and lovely. The colour is called Brick Red, and it's a slightly, I'm not sure if it's picking up, it's a little bit pinky, and it's a very sort of soft, slightly dusky. It's not I wouldn't say it was a bold red. It is obviously quite a rich colour, but it's got like a softness to it as well, which I really like. So yeah, I'm really, really enjoying this. I find it really relaxing to knit on. Now I've got into the flow of it and remembering how to do the increases, it's fine. It took a bit of concentration at first because there was to do the German short rows, which was a new technique to me, but there's not that many of them because it was new. I hadn't quite memorized exactly how to do it. So every time I did one, I had to remind myself of the steps of how to do it and whether you were doing it on the front or on the back. There are a couple of small mistakes. So at the end of one of the German short rows here, there's a bit of a hole, and I don't know quite what happened, but on the back I've got this really loose loop, so clearly something went wrong there. I think I just didn't do the turning at the end of the German short row properly. But I'm hoping I can somehow sort of just, when I pull on that loop, there's no hole there on the front. So I'm thinking when I finish, I can just get a bit more yarn and sort of secure that in somehow, and hopefully that will stop that from being too noticeable. I think there's the odd row here and there where my tension's a little bit different. Not quite sure why. But hopefully that'll all sort of even out with blocking, and I think overall it's not too noticeable. This is the raglan increases, which are looking quite pleased. They're looking relatively neat. So yeah, this is really enjoyable. It's obviously each time you go round, each time you increase, you get 8 more stitches per round. So the rounds are taking longer and longer to do. But hopefully not too much longer, and then I can split for the sleeves, and then it's just each round is the same amount of time, just straight knitting, no increases, I think all the way down to the bottom. So yeah, not sure when this will be finished, but it is definitely something that's really enjoyable to work on, so that's really nice. And I'm making this, I guess you could call it a make-along, I'm not really sure. It's not an organised one. But anyway, with a friend, Emma, who is Emma at Emma C Makes. She also has a really nice knitting and crochet podcast here on YouTube, and she's got Instagram, it's not a channel, is it? Instagram account as well, with lots of beautiful photos and reels of everything she's making. And she's making this same pattern at the same time as me. She's a little bit ahead of me. She podcasted yesterday, and she has finished all the raglan increases and just split, ready to continue on the body. But she's got quite a lot of whips on the go at the moment, so I think she said she's going to have a little pause, let me catch up, and then continue. But it doesn't really matter who finishes. It's not a race, obviously, and doesn't really matter when we both finish, but it is quite nice to be working on it roughly at the same time, and we can chat about it and compare notes and things like that. So that's really nice. She's doing hers with 2 yarns held together, which is what the pattern suggests to do, because it's quite a fluffy jumper. So you have a wool, I think, and then a mohair or kid silk thin strand of that held with it, to make a really fluffy jumper. But I decided just to go for a single DK yarn, because I'm not so keen on really fluffy jumpers. It's not really me, although maybe I should give them a try. And also I thought it might be a bit more fiddly holding 2 yarns at once, and because I'm quite new to knitting. I think I said all this last time. I decided to just go for a single yarn. But yeah, Emma's holding 2 together, and it looks really, really nice. And she's got a peachy pinky yarn, and then the kid silk that she's using with it is actually more of a beigey colour, very pale. And they look really, really nice together. I think both of us, we were saying to each other, we wouldn't have thought to pair different colours together like that. Would have gone for if it were me picking, I would have just chosen two the same colour. But when you put them together, the beiginess really softens the pink, and it's really, really pretty. So if you've probably seen it, but if you haven't, have a look, because it's really, really nice. Yeah, so that's my second whip that I've been working on. And then I've got whip number 3, which I only started yesterday, but I was thinking I wanted to podcast. So it's partly driven by podcasting. I wanted to podcast, and I thought, well, I've only got these 2 whips, and they're going to take quite a lot of time to work on, and have I got anything else to chat about? And also, I knew last time I mentioned about some yarn that one of my daughters had given me for Christmas, and I was looking for ideas for that. And I thought, regardless of podcasting and having things to chat about, it'd be quite nice to just finish off a quick project, or start and finish a project quickly. So the yarn that I wanted to use was this yarn that my daughter gave me for Christmas, which I showed you all last time. She gave me Bo Peep Pure, which is 100% wool, and Bo Peep Luxury Baby, which is a mixture of wool and nylon, but they're all DK, so they can all be used together. And I already had some from a previous project, some Bo Peep Pure in this cream colour left over. I've got 2 skeins of that, and I had a little bit more as well that was wound in a ball. So I wasn't quite sure what to make with it, but it is really, really lovely yarn, and it's wool. It's not, it's not an acrylic yarn. I wanted to make something worthwhile with it, not just fritter it away on little sort of playing around things. So I asked for some suggestions, and 2 people, thank you very much to those people, suggested the Granny Go Round jumper from Iron Lamb, because I was wondering about perhaps making a child's jumper for my daughter with it. And I know that pattern and love it, I've admired it and always thought that would be a lovely pattern to make. So I had a look at it and had a slight hesitation because although my daughter chose these colours and gave them to me, I think I just shook the camera then, I'm not entirely convinced they're exactly the colours she'd want to wear, especially not in a jumper. She's not a pink, she occasionally wears a bit of pink, but she's not a pink girl at all really. Though these ones she'd quite like, but I wasn't quite sure about all three of them together in a jumper. Plus, when I checked the pattern, there were two potential issues. One was that the kids one only goes up to age 8 and she is 9, but she's quite tall and she wears age 10 clothes. So, but that was not necessarily insurmountable. I could just add a bit of extra length on the body and the sleeves if need be, because she's not sort of big around the body or chest, she's just tall. So that could have been fine. But also when I looked at how much yarn you needed to make the age 8 size, I don't have enough. And I wasn't really sure. I could order more, but I didn't really want to. I wasn't sure what colours to go for. And I just wanted to use this yarn that I've got and not necessarily end up ordering more. Anyway, so this is quite a long story, isn't it? I had a look at all of Iron Lamb's other patterns, which I often have done in the past as well, because they are lovely. And spotted, she's also got another jumper called the Faraway jumper, which is really, really nice. But there's also it's got a sort of Fair Isle style yoke, but it's done with a mixture of granny stitches and spike stitches, and it looks really, really good. You've probably seen it, but it looks great. But she's also got a corresponding cowl and hat pattern with the same sort of Fair Isle pattern. I'll pop a picture in just to show you what it looks like. So I have bought the Iron Lamb's Faraway cowl pattern, and I thought a cowl, it's a great idea to use up this yarn because I can use this in all different combinations. The cowl pattern, you get a child size version and an adult size version, and you can just mix it around if you want to. So I can make a few, one for me, one for each of my daughters maybe, and hopefully use up all this yarn. So this is the one I've started for my daughter, and you can't really see much of it yet, which is why I put in the picture so you can get an idea if you don't know it of how it will finish up. But it's not just a straight granny stripe, quite a bit of it is, but then it'll sort of become more apparent as I add more to it. But she's also uses these spike stitches. The next round's going to have them as well, which give it a slightly different, more spiky, different shape look to how it would look if it were just granny stitches. So this is how far I've got with it last night. It's really nice and soft with using this yarn, and I think my daughter's gonna like these colours. She likes wearing a cowl. She prefers that to a scarf, which can get a bit sort of bulky underneath your coat. And it's still early February. I reckon I'll finish this probably this weekend, and there's still plenty of time to get some wear from it this year. Also considering there's a Faraway hat pattern as well, a bobble hat with a pom-pom. Also considering getting that as well, then I could do matching hats and cowls as well with this yarn if I've got some left over. So, and I think this is going to look really nice with the white being the main colour and then having the green, blue and pink. Is it green or turquoise or teal as the accent colours? So yeah, hopefully I'll finish that one off this weekend, and then next time I might be able to show you that as a finished object. But yeah, thank you so much for the suggestions, because that's really what sort of sent me down the Iron Lamb route and looking again at her patterns. And I'm really pleased with that one because I'm quite excited to get the Faraway Fair Isle style pattern worked up in those colours. I did have another whip last time, which was the two-tone granny square cushion cover that I'm making, but I haven't actually worked on that at all anymore since I last spoke to you. So maybe I'll have that once I finish these cows. I think I'll probably return to that. It was my daughter's birthday last month in January, and we got her it's called a mid-sleeper bed. I've been learning all the different terms for the different types of bed, and she wanted to be higher up. She's been asking for years and years, and we eventually caved and got her a mid-sleeper. So underneath it's just all an open space. So she's got like beanbag in there and blanket and toys and things, and she quite enjoys going under there, having a story under there at bedtime. So I was thinking, because the two-tone granny square cushion that I'm making, it's going to be a big one. I think I showed you the cushion pad last time that I've got that I'm hoping to cover, so that I think will go quite nicely under there if she'd like it. But yeah, there's no rush on that. It's not really a seasonal thing. It could be finished any time of year. Maybe I'll try and finish it for Easter. Could be an Easter present. I'm gonna have to think of something for my other daughter as well though. Right, so that's the end of my whips, and let's move on to future plans. So my plans for the next few weeks or so, next couple of months, is to finish off these projects that I've just been chatting about. So the 3 I showed you today and the cushion cover. Might start something else along the way, but I really want to get the blanket and the jumper especially finished off. So I've not got any more project plans at the moment. I know some people like to plan, some people plan for the whole year with the Make 9 thing, but I always find that I put stuff in my queue on Ravelry and think, oh, I'll make that. But then when the time comes to start something new, it's not necessarily what I want to make, and I have other ideas instead. Like I saw a really nice pattern for a knitted beret a couple of weeks ago, which I think I'd still like to make. But when I'm ready to start a new knitting pattern, I don't know if I might have the urge to make something else instead. So I try not to plan until the moment that I'm about to make it, and then make whatever it is that I really want to make then, rather than having two concrete set in stone plans. I have ideas, but I don't decide what I'm actually going to make until I start them. So no upcoming project plans at the moment, but there are a couple of events coming up, which one I'm definitely going to, and one has now sort of been demoted to a possibility because of the second event that I'm definitely going to. So the first event coming up is a yarn festival in Farnham, which is in Hampshire, in the south. I think it's Hampshire, or is it Surrey? Might be Surrey. It's probably Surrey, in the southeast of the UK, and it's called Unravel. And I went to it a couple of years ago with my friend Marisa, who is Marywish on Instagram. And that was my first time ever going to a yarn festival, and so far it's my only time as well. And it was lovely. Obviously there's yarn all over the place. Bit overwhelming really, I think. If you don't know what you're looking for, it'd be hard to stop yourself buying something. But I had a plan and bought some yarn for that project. But it was a really nice day out. So that's coming up in later on this month in February. And Marisa unfortunately can't make it. Well, she's having a lovely time doing something else instead on that day. But I was thinking of going either by myself on the Friday, it's just about an hour's drive from here, or then when I mentioned that my friend Marisa couldn't make it, my husband and daughter suddenly all got excited about going, which, well, to be honest, I wasn't so keen on my daughters coming round with me, because I thought I want to take my time and look at what I'm looking at, and I don't want them getting bored. So although they're interested to see it, I don't know if they're interested in seeing it at the pace that I'd want to see it. But there's this roundabout just outside Farnham, and on the roundabout there's this, it's not a shop because it's all outside, but this business that sells sheds and garden buildings. I think like they might do more sort of not luxurious, but more substantial ones as well, like offices and things like that, or gyms or whatever you want to put in a building in your garden. And we drive past it relatively often. It's like this landmark, and every time we think, oh, it would be great to stop and have a look around, especially my husband. He's quite interested by this, and the girls are too. So it's a possibility that we might go on to one of the weekend days of the festival, and I'll go and look at the yarn and they'll go and look at garden buildings. So we'll see. So that was a plan that I was going to do, but there's another plan now as well. So I might not go to Unravel because of this second plan, which just this week has been made. So the second plan is to go to the Stitch Festival, which is in March, and it's at I think it's called the Business Design Centre. There's some sort of business centre it's called, in London near Angel, and that's towards the end of March. And I was actually really lucky this week. Heather from Keep Calm and Crochet On, I'll pop a link to her website and Instagram in the show notes. She has a really brilliant crochet blog, and does loads of designs. She's got a cowl going on at the moment, a woodland cowl with a really nice woodland blanket. But anyway, you can check all that out if you want. But she was running a giveaway both on her blog and on Instagram to win a pair of tickets to go to the Stitch Festival. And I entered the giveaway on Instagram because I thought, that would be lovely, but didn't expect anything of it, obviously. And Thursday evening, I got a message pop up on my Instagram saying that I had won a pair of tickets. So obviously I've already got those tickets now, and they're free. Well, I haven't actually got them yet, but they're heading my way. And so I'm definitely going to go there at the end of March, and I'm going to go with my mum as well, because this festival, so Unravel is just all about yarn and crochet and knitting, maybe spinning, but everything is just yarn. But the Stitch Festival, it covers yarn, probably to a lesser extent though than Unravel, but then also lots of sewing stuff, which is what my mum's into. Really creative embroidery and sort of textile collage art and things. So I'm going to go up there with my mum at the end of March. So I'm really looking forward to a nice day out in London with my mum. I've booked the day off work already, so that'll be a real treat. So because that's a definite, it sort of makes me less, not concerned, but I might not do the Unravel Festival as well. If I didn't have the Stitch Festival coming up, then I'd be really keen to go to Unravel. But now I've got that Stitch Festival to go to in March. Well, I'll see how things are going and what if any other plans come up for that weekend about going, whether or not I go to Unravel. So those are my plans for the next few weeks, and I will of course let you know in future podcasts which of those festivals I go to, and let you know how what they're like, and I'll try and take a bit of footage as well to share with you. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I also thought it'd be nice to chat to you about some audiobooks that I've been listening to. So that is, I should probably just say that's the end of the yarny crochet chat for now, unless anything else pops into my head. So if you're not interested in audiobooks, then obviously feel free to tune out now, and thank you for watching. If you are interested in what I've been listening to, then stay tuned. So I like to listen to audiobooks while I'm crocheting or knitting in the evening. I used to watch TV, mainly Netflix, in the evening, like you do, but I found that I'd get absorbed in what I was watching on the TV and wouldn't crochet or knit so fast. But I discovered if I'm listening to audiobooks or podcasts, I keep going with the crochet and knitting and get a lot more done. Plus I really enjoy it anyway. So I kind of switched really to listening in the evenings from watching. So I listened to quite a lot, but a couple of things that I've really enjoyed listening to recently. The first is the Thursday Murder Club series, which I'm sure you've all heard of, and I'm quite late joining joining the club of reading or listening to them, but they are really, really good. So if, like me, you are also late to the party, I would really recommend them. They're just really good fun and a real just escapism, just pure enjoyment. And you could read the books, which I'm sure are brilliant, but I haven't actually read them, I've just been listening to them. And the narration on Audible is just really, really good, really enjoyable. So the first two books, if you don't know what they're about, basically they're about these 4 friends who live in a retirement village or community in Kent. And they come from different backgrounds. They're all very unique characters, but they all a really nice bunch, quite funny, and they set up this club in their retirement village called the Thursday Murder Club, and they try and solve unsolved murders from the past. That's basically how they were set up, but then there's also new murders happen in the present that they get involved in trying to solve as well. But it's really good, a whole host of really brilliant characters, really funny and witty and just really, really enjoyable stories, really clever as well. So I'm currently listening to the 3rd one in the series. I don't think the 4th one's been released yet. I think when I looked last it said it was coming out later this year. It's already sort of up there, bookmarked so you can add it to your wish list, but it's not yet been released, but there is another one on the way. The first 2 audiobooks were narrated by Leslie Manville, and she was brilliant, really, really good, did the voices perfectly, just how you'd expect them to be done, really warm and really good. And at the end of the audiobook, she has a chat with the author, Richard Osman. Yeah, I think it's with him both times. Or the first book might be her talking to someone else. I can't remember. But anyway, definitely at the end of at least the second one, and about different things about recording the audiobooks and things. And he's saying how brilliantly she does it and how keen he is for her to do the next one, and she's like, definitely, I'll do the 3rd book as well. And then the 3rd book is narrated by someone else, which I must have checked, because I did find that out before I started listening to it. I listened to the first 2 back to back, but then when I found out the 3rd one was narrated by someone else, I really wanted to listen to it, but I thought I better have a break, because to do all the characters' voices and hear them in a different voice might be a little bit disconcerting. So I had a break and listened to some other things. I probably had a break of about a month. And then I thought, they're just such good fun. I thought, I'm going to just go for it and listen to the 3rd book as well. And I'm sure I'll just, even if the voices are a bit different, I'll just get into it and it'll be absolutely fine. And it was. So the narrator for the book number 3 is Fiona Shaw. And to be honest, I think having had that break as well, yes, you could sort of tell it was different, but the vast majority of the voices were sort of seamless. Like, I didn't think, oh, it's a different person. There's a character called Joyce, for example, and she did her in I don't know if she listened to the earlier audiobooks or not. I think she must have done, because she got the characters all portrayed with their voices and expressions and so on in exactly the same way, really, as the first narrator who did the first 2 books. And so I'm thoroughly enjoying listening to the 3rd book as well. So don't let the change in narrator put you off. There's one character who's not a major character, but there's Chris is a police officer. He's higher up than that, but I can't remember what his rank is. Constable, maybe? I'm not sure. His voice, I think, has changed the most noticeably. I think she's given it a slightly different accent. Possibly she's changed it to a Welsh accent. I'm not entirely sure. But him, I do notice it's different. And he sounds slightly different, like a different character, but because he's not one of the main characters, it's still fine. But there's a whole host of other different characters, and she's got them all pretty much spot on, I think. So thoroughly recommend the Thursday Murder Club if you'd like a suggestion of a book to listen to or read. The other audiobook that I've listened to recently, which I've really enjoyed, is called A Gentleman in Moscow, and it's by Amor Towles. And I'm a member of a book club on our road. We have a book club and we meet up about we aim to do it every 6 weeks, but sometimes it's a bit longer. And we take it in turns to choose a book, and they're normally really, really good books that I enjoy, and sometimes they're a bit different to things I'd chose myself, but then it's always good to have read them. They're always good. This was the book that was chosen for our book club that we're actually meeting to chat about next week. We take it in turns to host and go to different people's houses. And I looked at the book, and it is a big book. It sounded really, really good, but it was, I think, around the 500 pages mark, something like that. And I thought, actually, realistically, I'm just not finding the time to sit down and read anymore. I'd rather be crocheting or knitting. So I did buy the book, but then I realised I'm just not going to get through it. So I decided to get the audiobook instead. And I'm really pleased I did, because it is a really good story, but it's one of those books that it's a big book, and it's not really a page turner. It's a slow character development story with lots of little small incidents happen that they do all come together in the end and all are important to have been mentioned, but you don't really know that as you're going along. So it was really nice to listen to. It was well narrated. It's really nice characters, really interesting. I'll tell you what it's about in a moment. But I think just because if you had all the time in the world, or just more time than me perhaps, then sitting down and relaxing and spending an hour reading it every other day or something, you'd get through it and you'd really enjoy it. But if I don't have that long to spend reading, well, I could read instead of crochet or knit, but I don't. So listening to it was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. So it starts in the it's before the Second World War, after the First World War, maybe the 1920s, I think, in Moscow. And a gentleman who was part of the Russian aristocracy is put under house arrest in this hotel in Moscow where he has been living, but he's put under house arrest. And basically what house arrest means, he's not allowed to leave anymore. And the story is basically about the rest of his life, really. Up until about the 1960s, perhaps. I'm not really sure, but quite some time into the future. And his time in the hotel from that point onwards, really. And the people he meets and the people who come and go from the hotel from all over the world. And it's really, really enjoyable. It's another book with lots of really good characters, lots of really interesting observations. I think I've forgotten the specifics, but I did learn quite a bit more about Russian history than what I previously knew. And lots of great characters. And then at the end, you realise that there's where it's all leading to, and it culminates in a bit more tension and plot to it all. But the beginning is just really enjoyable to listen to and hear all the tales of the different people he meets, and then later on it all comes together. So I'd recommend that. If you've got a lot of time, get the book and read it. If you've got less time, then get the audiobook and listen to it while you're knitting and crocheting. But it's a really, really enjoyable, good read. So that's the end of my podcast for today. I'm not quite sure how long I've been chatting for. I feel like it was longer than I thought it would be, given that I only had three things to show you. But I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks so much for joining me and watching. If you have, please don't forget to like and subscribe to like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you'd like to sign up to my email list, there is a link in the show notes below as well, and you get 2 free patterns, tapestry crochet patterns for signing up, and discount codes and news of all my pattern releases. And I send out a monthly newsletter there as well. So thanks again for joining me, and I hope you all have a lovely time working on your crochet and knitting projects. Until next time, thanks everyone. Bye bye.